The tow truck's hook bit into the undercarriage of my vintage wagon like a predator's jaw, yanking it from the curb with a screech that echoed down Elm Street like a final scream. I stood there, fists clenched, watching Karen Hargrove, self-appointed queen of the HOA, smirk from her porch, her pearl necklace glinting under the sodium lamps as if it were a badge of her petty tyranny. "Wrong way, darling," she called out, her voice dripping honeyed venom. "And in my neighborhood, rules aren't suggestions, they're gospel." I lunged forward, my boots scraping the pavement, heart pounding not just from rage, but from the bone-deep exhaustion of another 12-hour shift patrolling the backwoods trails of Shenandoah National Park. As a federal law enforcement ranger, I'd faced down black bears and drunk hikers teetering on sheer drops, but nothing prepared me for this slice of suburban hell. The wagon, my grandfather's restored 1940s horse-drawn relic, hitched to my truck for a rare weekend off, had been my one tether to simpler times, a rolling sanctuary where I'd escape the badge's weight and just breathe. Now it dangled like a trophy from that rust bucket tow rig, chains rattling like accusations. "Ma'am," I said, forcing my voice steady, the trained calm of de-escalation kicking in. "That's federal property. You can't just—" "Federal," she laughed, a sharp, tinkling sound that cut through the cooling evening air of this sleepy Virginia cul-de-sac. Her husband, a balding accountant type, hovered behind her like a shadow, avoiding my eyes. "This is Hargrove Heights, young man. Our covenants are ironclad. Park facing the wrong direction. Towed. No exceptions." She waved a manicured hand at the signpost I'd overlooked in my fatigue. "No reverse parking after 6 p.m. Fine. $250. I'd pulled in at 5:58, nose pointed the wrong way because the street sloped, and I didn't want my trailer rolling into the neighbor's azaleas. Practicality over pedantry. But to Karen, it was war. I reached for my wallet, flashing the gold-embossed NPS badge that had seen me through wildfires and lost souls. "Ranger Nathaniel Hayes, U.S. National Park Service. That wagon's en route to a historical demo at the park. Legally, you need authorization to touch government equipment." Her smirk faltered, just a flicker, before hardening into something uglier. Entitlement laced with fear. "Park Service? Here? This is private property, Ranger Hayes." She spat my name like it tasted sour. "I'll have you cited for trespassing. Call your superiors. See if they care about some hillbilly trailer in my pristine community." The tow driver, a burly guy with a faded Bill's cap, killed the engine and hopped down, clipboard in hand. "Ladies' right, buddy. HOA bylaws trump everything. Sign here or it goes to the yard." I didn't sign. Instead, I dialed dispatch, my thumb hovering over the emergency line. This wasn't about the wagon anymore. It was the principle, the casual cruelty of someone wielding power like a club because no one ever swung back. As the line connected, a figure emerged from the house next door. A tall, lean man in his late 20s, tousled auburn hair catching the last rays of sun, wearing a faded UVA hoodie and jeans that hugged his frame just enough to make my pulse stutter despite the chaos. "Elijah," Karen snapped, her voice pitching higher. "Inside. This doesn't concern you." But he didn't move. Those hazel eyes, flecked with gold, locked on mine, and in that split second, amid the standoff, I felt seen. Not as the intruder, not as the ranger, but as a man fraying at the edges. He crossed the lawn in 3 strides, hands shoved in his pockets, a quiet defiance radiating from him like heat off asphalt. "What's going on?" Elijah asked, his voice low, southern drawl softened by years in Charlottesville, where he'd studied architecture before returning to this gilded cage to care for his ailing grandmother. I didn't know that yet, of course. All I knew was the way his presence shifted the air, diluting her venom. Karen whirled on him. This delinquent parked his junk heap backward. "I'm handling it." Elijah's gaze flicked to the wagon, then back to me. A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. Sympathy, maybe, or something warmer. "Mom, it's a historical piece. Looks like something from the Blue Ridge exhibits. You sure about this?" Her eyes narrowed to slits. "Elijah James Hargrove, Don't you dare undermine me in front of outsiders. Outsiders. The word landed like a slap, but Elijah didn't flinch. He just nodded at me, a subtle tilt of his head. Hang tight, Ranger. I'll talk to her. Dispatch crackled in my ear. Unit 47. Confirm location. Tow in progress. I relayed the basics, keeping it professional, but my focus splintered as Elijah leaned in toward his mother, murmuring urgently. Words like lawsuit and embarrassment floated over, laced with that effortless charm that made her posture soften, ever so slightly. By the time the trucker grumbled and began unhooking the chains, the sun had dipped below the treeline, painting the sky in bruised purples and oranges. Karen retreated inside with a final glare. This isn't over. Leaving Elijah and me alone on the sidewalk, the wagon settling back onto its wheels with a relieved creak. Thanks, I said, rubbing the back of my neck, the adrenaline crash hitting like a wave. Nathaniel. Hayes. Elijah. He extended a hand, his grip firm, calloused from weekend sketches and half-finished models in his garage studio. Sorry about her. The HOA presidency's her full-time job. And unpaid overtime. I chuckled, surprising myself. No apologies needed. I've dealt with worse. Moose and Rut don't negotiate. His laugh was genuine. A rumble that warmed the chills settling in. Moose, huh? Sounds like a story over coffee. If you're not hightailing it back to the park. I should have. Shift started at dawn. Paperwork loomed. And this neighborhood reeked of the kind of drama I avoided like poison ivy. But those eyes held me. A quiet invitation amid the fading light. Coffee sounds good. Lead the way. We ended up at the corner diner. A relic called Millie's with checkered floors and pie under glass domes that hadn't changed since Eisenhower. Over black coffee and slices of chess pie, his pick, for the soul. Elijah opened up in fragments. He was the black sheep, the artist in a family of CPAs and realtors, back from the city to nurse his grandmother through chemo. Karen's golden boy once. Now the disappointment for choosing blueprints over balance sheets. And quietly, in the spaces between his words, I caught the undercurrent. The way he glanced at my hands, the subtle lean across the Formica table. I shared scraps of my own. Orphaned young, raised by Gramps in a cabin off Skyline Drive. The wagon his legacy and my anchor. The badge a shield, but one that left bruises no one saw. As the clock ticked past 10, the conversation dipped into safer waters. Favorite trails? Hidden waterfalls. The ache of roots pulling you back when you least want it. Outside, under the neon open sign, he hesitated. That offer for a real tour of the park? If you're ever off duty. I nodded, pulse quickening. Tomorrow, meet me at the Thornton Gap entrance, 8 a.m. Bring your sketchpad. He smiled then, full and unguarded, and for the first time in months, the weight on my chest lifted. As I drove off, wagon trailing faithfully, I didn't see the shadows gathering. Karen's resentment festering, Elijah's secrets buried deeper than he let on. But in that moment, with the Blue Ridge rising like a promise, I dared to hope. The next morning dawned crisp, fog clinging to the valleys like whispered secrets. I waited at the overlook, thermos steaming, the park's vastness stretching out. A cathedral of oaks and rhododendrons where rules bent to nature's whim. Elijah arrived in a battered Subaru, charcoal and paper tucked under his arm. His hoodie swapped for a flannel that accentuated the lean lines of his shoulders. Ready to get lost? I asked, handing him a ranger's map marked with off-trail gems. With you? Always. His tone was light, but his eyes held a depth that pulled at me, like gravity. We hiked the Appalachian Trail's lesser spurs, my stories of poachers and peregrine nests weaving with his tales of urban sketches, rooftop views of D.C., the pulse of galleries where he'd almost stayed. By noon, at a secluded cascade called Dark Hollow Falls, we spread out on flat rocks, the water's roar drowning out the world. He drew, lines fluid and sure, capturing the mist-shrouded drop while I watched, mesmerized by the focus etching his brow. You're good, I said, breaking the spell. Why not chase it full-time? He capped his pencil, gaze distant. Family. Grand's all I have left of the good in them. And Mom, she sees my art as rebellion. Like I'm throwing away the Hargrove name. I shifted closer, our knees brushing. Names are just labels. You define yours. His hand found mine then, tentative, fingers interlacing with a warmth that sent sparks up my arm. And you? That badge. Does it define you or chain you? We talked until the sun arced west, hands entwined. The fall's a symphony to our unfolding confessions. By the time we emerged trail-worn and sun-kissed, something had shifted irrevocable. A spark kindled in the wild, far from HOA edicts and family scripts. Back in Hargrove Heights that evening, the afterglow shattered. Karen waited on my doorstep, no, his doorstep, since I'd parked properly this time, borrowing Elijah's drive to unload supplies. She clutched a sheaf of papers, her face a mask of righteous fury. You, she hissed at me, then turned to Elijah trailing behind. Consorting with this? After I bailed you out of that phase in college. Elijah's jaw tightened. Mom, it's not. Save it. She thrust the papers at me. HOA violation notices. Retroactive fines for unauthorized vehicle storage. Threats of liens. Leave my son alone, Ranger. Or I'll bury you in bureaucracy until you quit. The betrayal stung. Not hers, but the glimpse of Elijah's past. A phase she'd weaponized, implying closets and conversions he'd fought to escape. He met my eyes, apology raw in them. But the damage lingered as I hitched up and drove into the dusk, the park calling me home. Days blurred into patrols, the wagon garaged. My texts to Elijah unanswered at first. Space, he said, to handle the fallout. But on the 7th night, a knock echoed through my cabin off Route 33. There he stood, duffel in hand, eyes shadowed. I left, he said simply. Packed what mattered. Can I stay? Just tonight. The door swung wide, and with it the floodgates. We talked till stars wheeled overhead. His body curling into mine on the worn couch, not crossing lines but anchoring each other in the quiet. Betrayal's echo faded against his whispered truths. The college lover outed by her. The therapy she'd forced. The art he'd hidden like shame. You're not a phase, I murmured, thumb tracing his jaw. You're the view I've been chasing. Dawn brought tentative plans, his sketches for park exhibits, my shifts bending to include him. But Hargrove Heights wasn't done. A subpoena arrived midweek, Karen suing for emotional distress over the towing fiasco, dragging Elijah's name through depositions that aired his lifestyle like dirty laundry. The courtroom in Waynesboro was a farce of oak panels and fluorescent hum. Karen perched like a hawk, her lawyer spinning tales of disrupted harmony. I took the stand, badge polished, recounting the illegal tow, the federal overreach. But when Elijah testified, voice steady, eyes on me, he didn't just defend. He reclaimed. Mom, he said, turning to her. You towed more than a wagon that night. You towed away the chance for us to be family without conditions. Nathaniel showed me what home feels like. Not a house, but a hand held in the hard places. The judge ruled in my favor. Fines reversed. Her HOA privileges suspended. Karen stormed out, but not before a fractured "I'm sorry" to Elijah, the first crack in her armor. In the aftermath, victory tasted bittersweet, like black coffee laced with regret. Elijah moved into my cabin piecemeal, a sketchpad on the kitchen table, his flannel draped over the porch rail, turning the space from solitary outpost to shared haven. Mornings, I'd brew Folgers strong while he sketched the fog rolling off the Shenandoah, his lines capturing the ephemeral in ways my patrols never could. We'd hike at twilight, his hand in mine a quiet rebellion against the world's judgments, our conversations delving deeper. My fears of the badge's isolation, his dreams of a studio overlooking the valley. Yet shadows lingered. Karen's sorry echoed hollow. Calls went unanswered, her silence a wall rebuilt higher. Elijah bore it with artist's grace, channeling pain into canvases of fractured light. Blue ridges splintered like broken trust. She'll come around, he'd say, but doubt flickered in his hazel depths. A storm cloud over our fragile peace. One crisp October afternoon, as leaves turned the park to fire, Dispatch crackled urgency. A hiker down in the Rose River Canyon. Suspected cardiac. I geared up, adrenaline surging. Elijah at the cabin sketching feverishly. Be safe, he called. Kiss lingering like a talisman. The rescue was textbook chaos. Ropes slick with dew, the victim a 60-something prof from JMU, clutching his chest as we winched him skyward. Hours later, medevac sirens fading, I trudged back trail-weary, only to find Elijah's Subaru gone. A note on the counter. Gran took a turn. Back soon. Love V. Concern gnawed as night fell. By midnight, my phone buzzed. Elijah, voice fractured. She's gone. Hospice called it peaceful, but Mom. She blames me. Says I abandoned her in her final hours. I drove through the dark, headlights carving tunnels in the mist, arriving at the Hargrove house as dawn bled pink. Elijah sat on the porch steps, knees drawn, eyes red-rimmed. Karen hovered inside, silhouette rigid, the air thick with unspoken grief. I'm here, I whispered, enveloping him, our breaths sinking in the chill. She emerged then, arms crossed, face a war of loss and lingering spite. You, she said, but softer, cracked. Heard about the rescue. Park's lucky to have you. Small mercies. We navigated the funeral in fits. Elijah's eulogy, a tapestry of Gran's gardens and gingerbread. Karen's grip on his arm, possessive yet trembling. Afterward, at the graveside, she pulled me aside amid the wilting lilies. I was wrong about the wagon, about you, but him, he's all I have left. Don't break us. Her plea, raw and human, disarmed me. I won't. But love isn't possession, Mrs. Hargrove. It's letting go. Elijah and I drove back in silence, his head on my shoulder, the valley unfolding like forgiveness. That night, under quilts stitched by Gramps, we held each other, bodies aligning in comfort, not conquest. Whispers of futures sketched in starlight. Winter blanketed the ridges in snow, softening edges, mirroring our thaw. Elijah's art bloomed. A local gallery in Luray featured his Shenandoah series, misty peaks evoking longing and release. I adjusted shifts for openings, badge at my hip but heart untethered. We'd host potlucks with fellow rangers, stories swapped over venison chili, laughter echoing where loneliness once reigned. But betrayal brewed subtle, insidious. One February eve, post-blizzard patrol, I returned to find Elijah on the porch, phone in hand, face ashen. It's nothing, he lied, but his eyes betrayed guilt, the thief. What's wrong? I pressed, shedding snow-dusted gear. He hesitated, then deflated. Mom offered me the family firm, partner track, stability, said if we toned it down, she'd make it right. The words landed like a gut punch, not for the offer, but the temptation it unearthed. His fear of instability, the artist's poverty we joked about over ramen. And you? I said no, but doubt lingered, a chasm widening. It's just, what if she's right? What if I'm dragging you into my mess? You're not dragging. We're walking together. I cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. But if you need to go, I don't. Fierce, he kissed me, slow and searing, sealing vows in the cold. Yet the seed planted, roots twisting unseen. Spring unfurled tentative, dogwoods blushing pink, trails muddied with renewal. We planned a trip. Great Smokies, his sketches, my maps, a week unbadged. En route, in a Knoxville motel with rain pattering tin roofs, vulnerability spilled. I almost took it, he confessed, fingers tracing my scars from a rock slide years back. The job, for her approval, for us to build something solid. Pain lanced, sharp as betrayal's blade. You didn't tell me. Fear, simple, shattering, of losing this. You. We mended in murmurs, bodies entwined in the storm's rhythm, reaffirming in touches that spoke louder than words. Love as anchor, not chain. Back home, harmony held, but Karen's shadow loomed. Invites trickled, dinners, stiff but sincere, her thawing evident in shared pie recipes and hesitant questions about park lore. Elijah bridged us, his warmth melting ice, until one sweltering July night, the call came. Dispatch. Multi-vehicle pileup on I-81, fogbank horror. I mobilized, lights flashing. Unaware Elijah trailed in his Subaru, sketching prompts from the chaos, until a semi-jackknifed, tires screaming, metal twisting in symphony of ruin. I found him pinned, sketchpad bloodied, eyes fluttering. Nathaniel! A gasp. Then sirens wailed me into numbness. Hospital fluorescence buzzed like accusations. Karen arrived, face stripped bare, clutching Elijah's hand as machines beeped dirge. My boy! She wept, turning to me. Save him, please. Surgeons fought. I paced corridors of what-ifs. Dawn broke with news. Stable, but spinal uncertainty. Walks aided, art perhaps forever altered. In recovery, his first words. Worth it. For the story. Karen lingered, her hand on mine. I was blind. To him. To you. Forgive. Humanity won. I nodded. We're family now. All of us. Rehab forged us. Elijah's determination afire. My support unwavering. Karen's visits evolving from duty to delight. Wheeling him to gardens she'd once ruled with iron. Betrayal's ghost faded, replaced by collective grace. Her funding his adaptive studio. My badge-earned tales inspiring murals. By fall at a gallery unveiling. His works, resilient strokes of ridge and ruin. We stood together, her arm linked with ours. To new trails, she toasted, glass raised. Elijah's eyes met mine, gold-flecked promise. And the hands that hold them. Autumn's palette deepened, leaves carpeting trails in crimson and gold, mirroring the slow burn of our mending. Elijah's rehab progressed in milestones. First steps unaided across the cabin floor, his laugh triumphant as he collapsed into my arms, sweat slick and alive. Karen, transformed, arrived weekly with Tupperware of her infamous Brunswick stew, her critiques of his evolving style now laced with pride. That shadow there? Pure Hargrove drama. Yet beneath the healing, fissures lingered. One evening, as frost etched windows, Elijah pored over emails. Gallery offers from Richmond, whispers of solo shows that demanded travel he wasn't ready for. What if I can't keep up? He murmured, pencil hovering. The art world's ruthless. One slip and I knelt beside him, hand on his knee. Then we adapt. Like the park after a fire. Stronger, reshaped. His smile was grateful but shadowed. Karen's influence, subtle as vine, crept in. Clippings of stable careers for artists turned entrepreneurs. Hints at the firm still open if art faltered. Loyalty warred in him. A quiet betrayal not of intent, but of inherited doubt. November brought Thanksgiving, our first as a triad. The cabin groaned under turkey and cornbread. Rangers crowding the table with tales of turkey trots gone wrong. Karen arrived in pearls and apron. Her contribution a congealed cranberry mold that drew good-natured jabs. As plates cleared, she raised a glass. To Elijah, who taught me rules bend for love. Tears brimmed in his eyes. Mine stung too. Later, by the fire, he leaned into me. She's trying. Really. I see it. My fingers combed his hair. And you? Forgiving? Working on it. A pause. Heavy. Like forgiving myself for almost leaving. The words hung. A bridge we'd crossed but not burned. Winter solstice neared, and with it my annual leave. A ritual pilgrimage to Gramps' grave, wagon hitched for the haul. Elijah insisted on joining, his wheelchair swapped for a cane, determination his crutch. The drive wound through hollows dusted white, radio crooning Dylan as stories flowed. At the cemetery under bare oaks, I knelt, tracing the stone. Wagon master, trailblazer. He'd have liked you, I told Elijah, voice thick. Stubborn dreamer. He placed a sketch atop, our cabin silhouetted against ridges, a third figure joining the pair on the porch. Family edition. Karen called mid-vigil. Tell him his exhibit's greenlit. Full sponsorship from me. Joy surged, but so did unease strings attached. Elijah beamed, oblivious, and we returned buoyant, plans for spring expansions bubbling. January's ice storm stranded us, power flickering, candles casting golden halos. Confined, truths tumbled. His confession of a preemie lover, a Richmond sculptor who'd ghosted after Elijah's small-town baggage surfaced. Felt like failure, he admitted, vulnerability raw. I shared my own scar. A partner in academy days, outed and ousted, leaving me armored. Love's a risk, like any trail. Slippery, but worth the summit. We emerged closer, storm-scoured, but betrayal's specter stirred anew. February's full moon. I patrolled night shift. Radio silent until static burst. Haze. Domestic at Hargrove address. Reluctant complainant. Heart seized. Elijah? I floored it, siren wailing through slicks. Arriving, lights painted the house blue. Karen? Disheveled. Arguing with Elijah in the foyer, voices raised. You think this sponsors your whims? She spat, waving a contract. It's investment. Stability for when he tires of playing house. Elijah's face crumpled. Mom, it's not play. Nathaniel's my. Enough. She crumpled the paper, tears streaking mascara. I lost your father to dreams. Won't lose you to this. Delusion. I stepped in, badge a shield. Ma'am, step back. This is harassment. Her eyes widened, then softened to defeat. Just wanted to protect him. From hurt, like I couldn't protect myself. Elijah deflated, cane trembling. Hurt's part of it, Mom, but so's the healing. She left in a cab, contract shredded in the drive. That night, Elijah wept in my arms, betrayal's weight crushing. Not just hers, but the mirror it held to his doubts. What if she's right? What if I am the delusion? You're my reality, I vowed, holding him through the shakes. We'll build ours, brick by stubborn brick. Spring's thaw mirrored our resurgence. Elijah's exhibit, Ridges and Reckonings, opened in Luray to acclaim, murals of fractured peaks mending, visitors lingering over the humanism in his strokes. Karen attended, front row, applause mingling with quiet tears. Post-show over champagne, she pulled us aside, proud of both. No strings. Skepticism lingered, but hope bloomed. We hiked Mary's Rock that May, Elijah's stride sure, my hand steadying. At the summit, valley sprawling, he turned. Marry me? Here where it started. Kneeling, ring simple silver from a jeweler in Front Royal. I whispered, yes, to every trail. Karen's blessing came via letter. Elegant script forgiving pasts, toasting futures. Betrayal transmuted to bridge, her visits now story swaps over pie. Summer solstice, we wed under those same dogwoods. Rangers and kin witnessing vows exchanged in sunlight. Elijah's art flourished. My patrols gained a co-pilot, his sketches chronicling the park's pulse. Yet climax brewed in quiet ways. A poacher ring I tracked for months, whispers of corruption snaking to local brass. One August dawn, stakeout shattered. Shots cracked, Elijah shadowing unbidden, his cry piercing as lead grazed my shoulder. Chaos. Perps fleeing, blood hot, his hands pressing the wound. Stay with me, he begged, voice breaking. Medics swarmed. I woke to his vigil, Karen pacing beside. My son-in-law, she said, fierce. Foolhardy, but family. Investigation cracked wide. Brass implicated. Badges stripped. I testified, truth my weapon. Elijah's sketches evidentiary art of shadow dealings. Fall brought vindication. Convictions, promotions denied but integrity intact. Rebuilt, we stood stronger. Love's forge tempering us. As leaves fell, Elijah's hand on my belly. Wait. No. A pup named Ridge, our first edition. Karen babysat, her laughter mingling with ours. Humanity's arc. From toe chains to wedding bands, betrayal to belonging. The poacher bust's ripple faded into autumn's hush, but its scars etched deeper than flesh. My shoulder mended slow, PT sessions a grind of pulleys and ice packs, Elijah's presence my metronome. His voice narrating sketches of progress, humor lacing the ache. Look at you, Ranger Hayes, from bear wrangler to bird feeder. He'd tease, wheeling me to overlooks where hawks wheeled free. Karen's role evolved, tentative overtures blooming into alliance. She volunteered at the park's visitor center, her organizational zeal cataloging exhibits, her stories of that stubborn wagon drawing laughs from tourists. One afternoon, as she and Elijah pored over display layouts, she confided, "I towed more than metal that day. Towed away my chance to see you. Really see." He hugged her, fierce. "You see now. That's enough." Our life wove tighter. Mornings of coffee and canvases, evenings of firelit reeds. Whitman for him, Thoreau for me. Doubts, once tempests, simmered to eddies, but betrayal's ghost whispered in idle moments, like when a Richmond curator dangled a fellowship abroad. "Go," I urged, masking the pang. "Your wings, Elijah. Spread 'em." He declined, eyes soft. "Wings work best tethered to home. To you." Winter's grip loosened into a mild December. Snow scarce but spirits high. We hosted solstice again, this time at the Hargrove house. Her concession, walls stripped of edicts, adorned with Elijah's ridges. Rangers mingled with her bridge club, tales crossing divides like bridges over canyons. Mid-feast, my phone vibrated. Dispatch. A lost child in the park's wilds. Duty pulled. I geared up, Elijah's Kiss Award. "Bring him stories," he said. The search stretched dusk to dawn. Flashlights slicing fog, the boy's cries faint echoes. We found him at first light, curled by a creek, clutching a stuffed bear. As I carried him out, radio crackling triumph, a deeper fear gripped. What if Elijah's art called him away? What if I became the chain? Back home, boy reunited, Elijah waited with Coco. Hero again, but his embrace held hesitation. "Missed you. Always do." The unspoken loomed. Balance. The eternal ranger's riddle. Spring heralded change. A transfer offer to DC's urban parks. Stability with sirens. "Better pay," Brass said. "Family man now." Elijah's eyes lit, then dimmed. City lights for sketches. But the ridges. Karen weighed in over brunch. "Progress isn't betrayal, boys. It's evolution." Her words, once barbs, now bomb. We debated nights, prose in one column, heart in another. Ultimately, I declined. Roots ran deep, the Shenandoah's call louder than concrete. But Elijah's fellowship resurfaced, reframed. A summer residency in Asheville, mere hours south. "Trials," he said. "Not goodbye." Agreement came hard, laced with love's ache. Drop-off day, wagon hitched for the hall, Karen waving from the porch. "Make us proud. Both of you." The drive south wound through Piedmont greens, silences pregnant. At the residency gates, artsy cabins amid azaleas. He lingered. 6 weeks. Then home. Home's wherever you sketch. Kiss sealed, I drove north, valley swallowing me whole. Solitude amplified. Patrols echoed empty. Cabin canvases blank. Letters arrived, parcels of sketches, notes of mountain muses and missing hands. Karen filled voids with dinners, her probing gentle. Hearts mend, Nathaniel, like bad policy. Mid-residency, crisis struck. Flash floods from tropic remnants, trails underwater, visitors imperiled. I led evacuations, mud to my knees, radio my lifeline. Then, static, Hayes, Hargrove en route. Insisted. Panic surged. Elijah, cutting short, barreling through deluge? Karen's doing her protectiveness overdrive. He arrived soaked, studio fresh, flinging himself into the fray, directing stragglers with artist's eye for flow. Amid chaos, our eyes met over sandbags. Partnership, unbreakable. Flood receded, park scarred but standing. Back at cabin, drenched and defiant. He grinned. Couldn't sketch without the storm. Karen confessed later. Pushed him. Feared you'd drift. Drift. I laughed. We're anchored. Summer's heat peaked with his return, portfolio bursting, tales of collaborative firesides. Gallery buzz grew. A joint exhibit, his art paired with park photos I'd snapped. Opening night in Staunton. Under strung lights, Karen emceed, voice steady. From wrong way parks to right path loves. This is family. Crowds swelled, critics praised the humanism. Ridges not conquered, but conversed with. Post-reception, alone on a balcony, Elijah turned. Betrayal's lesson? Love demands trust. In each other. Always. I nodded, ring glinting. Learned it the hard way. Fall deepened bonds. We adopted Ridge fully. The pups romps through leaves a joyful chaos. Karen's health faltered. Routine check revealing spots. Early but insistent. Her fight became ours. Chemo chairs shared with stories. Her wig askew as she quipped. Even bald. I run a tighter ship than the HOA. Elijah's art turned therapeutic. Portraits of resilience. Her face foremost. My badge extended. Community outreach, blending enforcement with education, his designs the bridge. Climax crested Thanksgiving. Scans clear, but a letter from her past. Ex-husband, Elijah's father, long estranged, seeking amends post-divorce reckoning. Wants forgiveness, she read, voice quaver. For leaving, for the voids. Elijah's jaw set. After all this, we convened, fire crackling. Humanity's messy, I said, like floods. You rebuild or drown. He met the man in neutral ground, a diner off 81. Return brought quiet, not family, but closure. Karen exhaled decades' weight. Enough ghosts. Winter solstice, we circled wagons, literal and figurative. Feast under stars. Gramps' relic aglow with lanterns. Vows renewed informal. Hands clasped. To weathering, to wandering together. Spring's renewal carried us. Elijah's book deal. Trails unto wed. Memoirs laced with ridges. My promotion to lead ranger, badge heavier but shared. Yet betrayal's final echo. A junior officer, ambitious, leaking patrol logs to press. Smearing my flood heroics as overreach. Scandal brewed, headlines twisting service to spectacle. Board hearing loomed, brass cold. Elijah rallied. Sketches of truth, Karen's testimonials fierce. He saves, she declared. Not headlines. I faced the panel, voice steady. Duty's not glory. It's the hand in the dark. Vindicated, leak traced, justice swift. Aftermath, tighter unit, my team forged in fire. Summer solstice, wedded bliss year 2. We hitched the wagon for Smokey's Redux. Anniversary pilgrimage. Trails trod hand in hand. Pup bounding. Love's path clear. Karen joined midway, her presence gift. From towing to towing the line, together. Laughter echoed canyons. Humanity's chorus. The leak scandal's dust settled into a firmer foundation. My role at the park evolving from lone wolf to mentor. Training rookies on ethics amid the oaks. Elijah's murals adorning the new education center. Bold strokes of coexistence. Karen, cancer in remission, channeled vigor into advocacy. Reforming HOAs statewide, her testimony in Richmond laced with rye. I was that Karen confessions. Power unchecked is a bad park, she'd say, earning chuckles from legislators. Our domestic rhythm hummed. Ridge's zoom eyes at dawn, coffee shared sketches, evenings where my head found Elijah's lap, his fingers mapping constellations on my scalp. Doubts, once tempests, now zephyrs. Whispers quelled by routine's grace. Yet life's undercurrents stirred. A call from my estranged aunt in Philly, Gramps' soul kin, inviting reconciliation post-scandal press. Family, Elijah mused over pie. Or fresh wounds. I went, solo, the city of brotherly love, a stark contrast to Ridge hush. Cobblestones and cheesesteaks, her apartment a shrine to Gramps' photos. Tears flowed. Apologies for silence during my youth's upheavals. Feared tainting you with our failures, she admitted. Return brought Elijah's embrace, his question soft. Worth the tow. Every chain. We hosted her spring visit. Bridges built over trout streams. Summer swelled with promise. Elijah's book tour. Trails unto wed climbing charts. Readings in Asheville and D.C. drawing crowds hungry for tales of suburban siege to wild redemption. I tagged along off duty. Badge stowed. Our hotel nights are reclaiming bodies familiar, souls entwined in post-reading glow. In D.C. at a Georgetown salon, a fan approached, young architect, eyes on Elijah like discovery. Your work, it's queer joy in the mundane. Revolutionary. Elijah flushed, hand finding mine. Co-author, really? Couldn't trail without him. Jealousy flickered, irrational. Betrayal's old echo, but quelled by his glance, grounding. Back home, harvest moon, Karen dropped a bomb. Dating. Retired admiral, she beamed over pot roast. Widower. Thinks my HOA rants are feisty. Elijah's shock morphed to mirth. Mom, you're happy. Blushingly so. Her wink disarmed. We met him. Salty dog with park stories of his own. Over clambakes, his toast. To late blooms and right turns. Fall's palette framed domestic bliss. Ridge's first hunt, nose to fallen acorns. My patrol's lighter, shared with Elijah's guest lectures on eco-art. But conflict simmered external. Park budget cuts loomed, brass-eye enclosures, my education wing first on the block. Petitions flew, Karen's network mobilizing, Elijah's book proceeds seeding a fund. Rally at the visitor center. Locals chanting, signs waving, save our trails. I spoke, voice raw. This isn't land, it's legacy. Love letter from generations. Media swarmed, headlines shifting from scandal to salvation. Victory came narrow, wings spared, expansions greenlit. Winter's chill brought introspection. Solstice eve, fire lit, Elijah unveiled a portrait. Us, age silver, hands laced on wagon porch. Futures sketched, tears pricked. Biased, but beautiful. New Year dawned with news. I'm pregnant? No. Elijah's diagnosis. Routine check unearthing a shadow on his lung. Echoes of Grand's foe. World tilted. Scans confirmed. Early, treatable, but the word cancer a thief in our haven. Karen rallied, admiral in tow. Aunt flew south. Chemo commenced, his sketches defiant. Ridges unbroken, figures resilient. My badge sidelined for caregiver. Nights holding him through chills. Days foraging hope in hot soups and hikes paced slow. Betrayal's cruelest twist. Doubt resurfaced, his whispers in dark. What if I drag you down, like Mom feared? Down, I countered. Fierce. You're my updraft. Treatment's gauntlet forged steel. Hair lost to cap, but spirit soared. Book sequel outlined bedside. Echoes unto wed. Karen's admiral proved steadfast. Her hand in his during infusions. We fight ugly together. Spring's dogwoods mocked fragility, but Elijah walked them. Cain conquered. Remission declared May Day. Bells tolling victory. Celebration at the falls. Picnic under cascades. Toasts to trials transmuted. Karen tearful. My boys. Couldn't be prouder. Summer solstice, year 3 wed. We renewed under stars, vows amended. In sickness, in sketches, till ridges fade. His book tour resumed, triumph laced with gravitas. I shadowed, our love public now, badges of survival. Fall harvest, a surprise. Adoption inquiry, foster kid from park outreach. A wiry 10-year-old named Theo, eyes wide at trails. Home visit sealed it. Ridge's playmate, our family expanded. Karen doted, admiral teaching knots. Aunt sending Philly pretzels. Holidays hummed fuller. Table groaning under kinships forged. Winter's hush held a gift. Elijah's mural commission. National Mall. Queer histories etched in steel and stone. DC Trek, scaffolds high, his vision bold. Climax crested unveiling. Crowds thronged, speeches lauding resilience. POTUS proxy. From wrong ways to righteous paths, America's story. After, alone in gallery hush, he turned. We did this. From a towed wagon. Kiss sealed, eternal. Yet shadow lingered. Theo's adjustment rocky. Nightmares of prior homes. Trust a fragile bloom. One stormy eve. Thunder cracking, he bolted. Found cowering by the wagon. Relic a sanctuary. Elijah knelt. Rain lashed. Safe here. No toes, only trails. My arms joined, trio huddled. Betrayal's lesson. Family mends, one fracture at a time. Spring's renewal. Theo's first sketch, crude but earnest. Us, ridges behind. Karen framed it, Admiral nodding approval. Summer's heat-baked plans. Cross-country wagon tour. Theo's wonder at Badlands and Big Sur. Elijah's book signings en route. En route, in Nebraska plains, breakdown. Axle snapped, stranding us under endless sky. AAA lagged, we camped, stars wheeling, stories swapping. Theo, like pioneers? Elijah, better, with love. Repair dawn, we rolled on, mended stronger. Fall homecoming. Exhibit extensions, Theo's school tales, Ridge's graying muzzle. Winter solstice, full circle, feast with all, wagon lantern lit. Toasts to unto-wed hearts. Humanism's quiet win. From conflict's chains, love's liberation. The wagon tour's echoes lingered into a golden autumn. Theo's sketchbook bulging with prairie ghosts and ocean whispers. His chatter filling silences once heavy with what-ifs. School settled him, art club budding under Elijah's guest spots. Friendships tentative but tending. At home, rhythms deepened. My patrols now family debriefs. Badge tales twisted into bedtime lore. Elijah's studio a haven. Easel beside Theo's homework sprawl. Karen's romance flowered overt. Engagement announced over Yule log. Admiral's ring a simple gold band matching her pearls. Third time's the charm, she quipped, Elijah's hug enveloping. Wedding small, spring bluffside, us ringside, vows echoing ours, her eyes on Elijah. Your turn to lead the dance, son. He did, designing their mountain getaway, cabin sketches blending Hargrove polish with Ridge raw. Admiral proved ally, park fishing trips bonding him and Theo over trout lines and tall tales. Summer's swelter brought crossroads. National Park Service reshuffle. My name floated for Yellowstone lead. Vast wilds, but uprooting our valley nest. Elijah waited bedside, Theo oblivious in bunk. Bison over bears? Tempting, but roots. Theo's input, Dawn kitchen. Can we keep the wagon? And Ridge. Decision deferred, heart pulling homeward. Instead, local anchor, education director, badge evolved to stewardship. Fall's cusp, crisis whispered. Karen's spots returned, aggressive shadow. Chemo redux, but spirit unbowed. Admiral's steadiness her rock, our visits her fuel. Elijah's art turned elegiac. Portraits of her laugh lines, Ridge's resilient. Book 3 germinated. Shadows on the slope, weaving her fight with our origins. Thanksgiving tested. Table set for warriors, her plate pushed aside for broth, but quips flew. Past the stuffing. Cancer's no excuse for skimping. Remission flickered false hope. Winter solstice, hospice whisper. We gathered, wagon porch aglow, her stories marathon. HOA follies to heart mends. To Elijah, you unto-wed me, boy. From spite to sight. His tears, love you, mom. Final dawn. She slipped quiet, Admiral holding, us flanking. Grief's tide receded slow, but legacy bloomed. Foundation in her name, HOAs humanized. Spring's dogwoods wept petals on her stone. Theo placing a sketch, her with wings, ridges eternal. Elijah's mural expanded, her face woven in. Summer healed, Theo's camp counselor gig. My patrols with pup sidekick, Elijah's residency redux. This time joint, father-son art in the wilds. Tour dust settled, book accolades piled. Theo's forward, scribbled earnest. Family swelled, aunt's visits biannual, admiral uncle now, folding into folds. Fall's harvest moon, betrayal's ghost exorcised. Old Richmond lover resurfaced, email contrite. Seeking amends post his own reckonings. Elijah shared, unburdened, closure, not chapter. Reply gracious, door shut soft. Winter's hush cradled growth. Theo's coming out, tentative over cocoa. Like you too, our arms opened wide. Exactly, proud. Elijah's whisper, full circle, solstice feast, Kin complete. Admiral's tales, ants' laughs, ridges' snores. Toasts to unto-wed paths. Climaxes echo. Park wildfire, ridges aflame. I led containment, Elijah sketches mapping wind shifts. Theo evac volunteer, trio in sync. Blaze quenched, scars greenshot come spring. Resilience incarnate. Summer solstice, decade mark since tow. We hitched wagon east. DC unveiling, Elijah's monument agleam. POTUS nod. From petty chains to national grace. Crowds parted. Theo beaming. My dad's. After bluff picnic, Theo's girl crush tales, our hands laced. Fall deepened. Theo college bound, UVA echoes. Our empty nest filled with travels. Alaska fjords, his sketches, my maps. Winter's gift. Grandfatherhood whispers. Theo's partner. Ring shy but sure. Solstice grand. Kin multiplied, laughter's legacy. Years blurred. Theo's wedding, our aisle strut. Elijah's gray-streaked genius, galleries worldwide. My retirement badge, trails walk tandem. Final betrayal? Time's gentle toe. Elijah's hand faltering on our last hike. Age's quiet claim. Cabin bound, wagon garaged. We sat porch rockers, ridges violet. Worth every wrong way, he murmured. Every arrest, I echoed. His passing, spring soft, leaves unfurling. Sketch's legacy, love's ridge eternal. Grief's valley climbed slow. Theo's arms, kin's circle, Karen's foundation thriving. Summer solstice solo, I hitched wagon one last, trail dust, his ghost companion. Fall's gold, monument visit, his face eternal. Winter's hush, peace unto wed. Humanism's close. From Karen's chain to love's liberation. Ridges conquered not, but cherished. Family, flawed and full, endures.